Good morning, everyone. Yay! Today is June 9th, 2014, and we are discussing May Cause Miracles by Gabrielle Bernstein. We, meaning Erick Silvermoon and myself, we are going through this process of the book. This is a 40-day guide of subtle shifts for radical change and unlimited happiness. And it has been quite the adventure thus far. This is week 4 that we're on, and I gotta say, this is quite a fun experiment that we're going through. So as always, we will go to Erick so that he can share his experiences from this week's challenge.
Hi, Flora. Hello, everyone else. This week was interesting because it was all about relationships and how we perceive them and how they affected us in the past and present and pretty much the future. But this week it was almost kind of like allowing ourselves to be vulnerable about it and be very honest and clear about how we have certain relationships and whether they are loving and compassionate relationships or if they're very toxic kind of relationships. So this week was very, I always feel like, I always feel like our angels and our team are guiding us through it and are bringing things up so that we can clearly see what's going on for the purpose of testing this May Cause Miracles. Because this week I had a lot of people from my past come up that I used to have some kind of beef with or some kind of resentment or maybe jealousy from high school. A couple of my exes from the past came up and certain emotions came back up, and so it was definitely Gabrielle Bernstein uses the F word, which is forgiveness, and for me it was right in my face. It was my angels telling me, you either forgive and release or keep and be unhappy. And so I had that very clear option of I'd rather just forgive, but of course being very clear of why I want to forgive. And it's just to release that power that I had someone else have hold of me, of my happiness. It's like you gave a piece of something to someone else and they've been keeping it, and then you go on feeling like you're missing something. Mm-hmm. So it was all about claiming my own power and receiving back my happiness, and it was very exciting. I forget what week it is. I believe it was actually, I think it was day 26 or 27. We're supposed to write down the names of the people that need forgiving. And I was saying, Flora, most of mine were mostly exes. So it was a lot of forgiving of, how I felt about certain situations, of how things ended, of how they could have ended, or, sometimes I feel like, oh, maybe if this would have changed, I probably still would have been with this person. But it was important for me to forgive them for whatever, release them from my memories pretty much, and allow myself the opportunity to forgive myself for holding on to them without judgment. And so that was I think the true purpose of this week is to be able to see your past and, forgive yourself for the choices, because in reality, those choices are the reason why I'm here talking to Flora today. I mean, they all led up to this moment, so there's no point to have resentment towards it, because it's been, one of those slingshot moments towards greatness. And so I'm very appreciative for this week and for all the lessons. And it feels a little bit lighter, if that makes sense. It just feels a little bit lighter.
Yay! Yay! Good. Yeah, this week has been really amazing for myself as well. Well, at the beginning of the chapter, hold on, let me get to the beginning of it. She talks, or it says relationships, and of course most people would assume that it's romantic relationships that we're talking about here. But in this chapter, as Erick mentioned, this is relationships of all kinds, of relationships with your parents, with your siblings, with your aunts, uncles, cousins, coworkers, exes, everybody. And to be able to go into this week expecting miracles, expecting a shift, perception is really interesting. And I love how in day 22, which is the first day of this week, she said, decide to change your mind. Because how many times have you been in some type of argument and you know that you're right? You're like, I know I'm right. And you're just firm at this. And then you're like, damn it, when you realize the other person's perspective. And that's one of the things that, like day 23, she talks about, in the evening exercise, she talks about, I'm willing to see love instead of this. Because on day 22, we talk about how we've wronged someone else or how we project our thoughts and our, I guess, emotions and moods on other people. And in allowing ourselves to see something else instead of what our ego thinks we see is really powerful. Now, one of the things that she says is, I'm willing to see love instead of this. One of the things that I like to interject there as well is I am willing to see understanding instead of this. And because some people have an aversion to the word love. I don't, but I like to see things from kind of all sides and all aspects. And many times when I work with clients, they're like, well, I don't love this or I don't love that. And I'm just like, okay, so what word better resonates with you? And that's one of the reasons why we're doing this live for all of you, so that you can see the different aspects of this work and how you can make it work for you. Because some people don't resonate with the word love, but do you resonate with the word understanding or respect or deeply care for yourself? And if you choose to see understanding instead of love, okay, so let's just say that you had an argument with a coworker and you really don't feel like forgiving this person. You're just like, ugh, whatever, I know I'm right, whatever, And then you're just like, okay, so try to see it from their perspective and try to see it through the eyes of understanding of, okay, I understand where they're coming from. And allow yourself to feel that shift, because when you allow yourself to be willing to open up to their perspective, it completely shifts the energy of the whole situation. So it's just really exciting. Day 24, she talks about not overthinking stuff. This is huge. This is huge. Many times we get caught up in the overthinking, especially if there's forgiveness involved or there's an argument or there is kind of a sort of, butting of heads, if you will. And we start to overthink a situation, especially if there's been an argument and someone says something and you can't think of a good comeback right away, and then afterwards you're like, dang it, I should have said this or I should have said that. Then you just start overthinking it and you're like, ugh. And then some people kind of start to think of, well, maybe I can get into another, argument so that I can bring that up again so that I can say the thing that I want to say now, that, that really good comeback that you just thought of. And is it really worth all of that energy to put forth so that you can say that comeback? And, in day 26 and day 27, she talks a lot about forgiveness. And I gotta say, when I started working with A Course in Miracles a little over 2 years ago, that was the thing that I had a really challenging time with, forgiveness. Because I grew up Catholic, and in the Catholic faith, you go to confession and you confess your sins and you're forgiven by the higher ups. And so I really saw a lot of dogma and a lot of just all this heavy energy around forgiveness. And so I had to do a lot of work around that word. And one of the things also, and this, I should have brought this up last week, but I didn't. One of the things that she brought up last week was, so not week 4, but week 3, she talked about surrendering while doing this work and actually going on your knees and praying on your knees or talking to God or your master teachers or the universe on your knees. And I was like, what? And that triggered something in me. And again, that was from my Catholic upbringing. Not that there's anything wrong with being Catholic, but it was one of those things that I felt that religion for myself to be very restrictive. But anyway, so that was something else that I had to work through. It was very interesting, but I do see her point on just surrendering and getting totally outside of ego and getting totally into spirit. Whether you get into spirit on your knees or on your meditation pillow or lying down in bed or standing in the shower or walking around your neighborhood, wherever it is that you feel that release of ego the most, that's how and why I recommend that you find or do that specific action, whether it's getting on your knees and praying that way or speaking to God or the universe or whomever. in any form or fashion that you feel is best for you. But because some people, especially, if you picked up, like the Course in Miracles at all, you'll know that it's a very religious feeling book. And that was something that I had a challenging time getting through. I don't know about you, Eric, but because they mentioned God and all these other things, which there's nothing wrong with the word God, but in our society now we have kind of this dogma of religion and these certain sects of religion, and so shifting that word or that perspective is beneficial. So if you have any type of aversion to any of the words used in this book, like love or forgiveness or going on your knees, allow yourself to feel that shift or that dissonance, and your ego will bring it up and your spirit will go, okay, let's look at this. Know that that's a good thing. Know that allowing yourself to feel that shift or that dissonance and saying, okay, wait a minute, this is a trigger. Work on that trigger. Allow yourself, give yourself permission to not brush it aside, but actually look at it and say, okay, why is this bothering me when she says to pray on my knees? Why is this bothering me to say I forgive someone or I'm willing to forgive someone? And when you're willing to do that, oh my goodness, that's huge. That's all about taking personal responsibility for your life and for your path and for your happiness, really. And like Eric was talking about on day 27, one of the things that she has us do is she has us fill in the blank. So-and-so is my greatest assignment. Mm-hmm. And looking at a relationship, whether it's an ex or a parent or a sibling or a coworker or a boss or whatever, allowing yourself to look at that particular relationship and say, this is my assignment. Instead of looking at it as, oh, this person really pisses me off. Oh, say, okay, why do they piss me off? Why do they really bring up the fire and the heat in me so much? Why do they constantly push my buttons and are constantly hitting those triggers for me? That's huge, because if you allow yourself to work through that, oh my gosh, it really is like birthing a whole nother perspective. And then you really allow yourself to see the blessing in everything, and you allow yourself to see how much you've grown because of this person. One of the things that Eric and I were talking about right before we started the call today was about how there's relationships of many kinds. There's, the season, the reason, or a lifetime. And allowing ourselves to forgive someone and releasing them is huge. And regardless if they're family or not family, allowing yourself to really see a relationship for what it is, and allowing yourself to admit, to say, you know what, this is, even though this person is family or this person isn't family, this is a relationship of just a season or a reason, and I can release this relationship knowing that I've forgiven this person. And because many times when we have a beef with someone, we've got, an argument or whatever, they've rubbed us the wrong way, we rubbed them the wrong way, and it's just, there's an argument. Okay, that's fine, that happens. But then allowing yourself to say, okay, I'm willing to forgive this person, or I forgive this person, and I forgive myself for latching onto this and whatever, and then allowing yourself to just release it. I'll never forget, Oprah Winfrey talked about this one argument that she had with this supposed friend or whatever, and I think that they were friends at the time, and she hadn't spoken to this lady in a long time, and she still, every time she thought about this lady, she was like, she was pissed, and she just was so resentful. And one day she said that she was in New York, and she saw this former friend walk out of Tiffany's and was laughing and having a great time, and Oprah was like, oh, doesn't she know I'm pissed at her? How can she be having a good time? And it's like, really, think about it. Think about that person that you harbor such ill will to, or that you just harbor resentment, or, well, I'm pissed at her or him, so I'm never going to let them live this down, or yada yada, whatever. Think about how much energy that you're using and keeping that energy the way it is, and allowing yourself to just be willing to forgive. So okay, in this book she talks about just ultimate forgiveness, and one of the things that I kind of shifted is being willing to forgive someone, or even being willing to forgive yourself for being in a certain situation or whatever, but being willing to forgive frees up that energy and opens it up, because you don't have to be willing to forgive now. You can be willing to forgive next week or a decade from now, or maybe on your deathbed, whatever. Even then, but being willing to forgive in a situation is so huge, and it really allows you to release some of that energy that you've been holding on to of, well, I know that I'm right, and like, because I'm right, I'm never going to let this person down, or I'm never going to let this person, like, forget this or whatever. But allow yourself to just be willing to forgive, and doing so really allows you to just, like I said, free up that energy, and it's just so much easier. And like Eric was saying with his list, it's surprising sometimes with who comes up when you're making these lists. And so what was one surprise that you had this week, Eric, in doing this forgiveness exercise? And then also, like on day 25, she was talking about how we act as mirrors for each other. What was one, like, super huge, like, wow, this is so surprising that actually came out of these exercises?
Yeah. I would say actually that you said day 25, because the affirmation from A Course of Miracles was all encounters are holy encounters. And that could mean a lot of things to different people. For me, it was just like every time I meet someone, have an interaction with someone, it's my opportunity, it's my assignment, my mission to either see love in this person or see a reflection of my fear in this person. And so being in the customer service industry, like, it really made me bump up my customer service and just be very, I want to help this person because I would want someone to help me. So it was one of the easiest days, I think, at work. And so I liked it. That was my biggest surprise of how easy a day could really be if you switch your focus on how you want your day to go. And there's something that you did say that I liked, of changing the word from forgiveness or love to understanding. Because in my field of work with property management, I deal with a lot of residents. I manage 288 units, and that's I don't even know how many families live in those units, but you're always going to bump head with someone that always thinks they're right. And to be a person, to put yourself in that understanding mode of, I understand why they're upset, rather than like, no, this is procedure, this is protocol, it's California law, and being that, on the book, I think that was very beneficial for me to know that I have to put myself in their feet. I have to understand that these are issues, as little as they are, they're big to them and they matter to them. So I have to be respectful in that. And so I found that to be one of the biggest aha moments, is like, just be understanding. And like you said, just being open is to forgive somebody. It doesn't have to happen right away. But I do believe by allowing yourself to remove that, to open that door to allow forgiveness to happen, I think things start to trigger and things start falling into place where you could get to the point, whether it's a year or 2 years from now or on your deathbed. But you allowed yourself to do the small little growth to give yourself that gift of forgiveness towards yourself or to other people. So that was great. I like that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I definitely have to say this book is a lot different than I thought it was going to be, which is good. Well, like I mentioned at the beginning, going into the book without expectation is really good, is really big. Because normally I don't recommend a book until I go through it, or I don't recommend anything, a class, a procedure, a meditation, anything until I go through it and I know it works for me. And I know how it works for me, and I figure out why it's worked, so that I can refer it to other people. And having experience with Gabby's stuff before, I know that it's always worked for me. So this is exciting. But I am very glad that I waited to do this. Yay! So we do have a few viewers. Let me see if they have any comments. Nope, not yet. Okay, so next week, which is June, what is that? 16th. Okay, I'm looking at my calendar over my refrigerator. So June 16th, we will be going over week 5. Which is, and this is a really cool one, raise your self-worth, raise your net worth. And this is something, oh my goodness, I have several classes about self-worth and self-esteem, and I also have an e-kit about shift your money mindset, which is a really, really big one. It's huge. And it all has to do with the story that we tell ourselves. So I'm really, really looking forward to this one. Because money is an issue for everybody, regardless if, what your financial standing is. I know people that are millionaires that still have financial woes and worries, and yeah, it's very interesting. So I'm really looking forward to this next week. So yay! All right, so next week we will be here again. It's going to be on June 16th at 10 a.m. Central Time. What is that, 8 a.m. your time?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's so early. And you can also catch both of us on Coffee and Inspiration every week. We are not going to be on tomorrow, but every week, every Tuesday, for Coffee and Inspiration with Crystal Starshine and friends, you can see the links on both of our Facebook pages and both of our websites. And that's always a really super fun time, to say the least. But I'm wishing you all a really fabulous and fearless week, and I hope to read your comments below on how this book, if you're going through it, has impacted you. Yay! I'll see you all later. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.